What's good, kings and queens? Hope everyone's starting off their December right. This week's video is on when boxers get taken to school. Now, what I'll be looking for in these matchups is when one boxer displays beautiful fundamentals and ring generalship to win the match either by a landslide or very convincingly on the scorecards. With that being said, let's start the video. This one particularly, I have a lot to say, so bear with me. This was a long-awaited match between what would be amateur boxing rivals. Unfortunately, Gary Russell Jr. fell ill at a rival of the 2008 Beijing Olympics. He was most likely going to face Lomachenko and would have been the more anticipated matches in that division. Russell claiming he would have beaten him during the build-up. This fight was in the first half of 2014. If you don't know what was happening in 2014 boxing history, there was a boxing network Cold War between HBO and their loyal promoters and Showtime PBC with their loyal promoters. Under almost any circumstance, there was never a cross-promotion fight where one guy will jump to a network to fight another. Due to the controversy of the Salido Lomachenko fight, Basile had another chance to fight for the title, but Gary Russell Jr. was also in line for that belt as well. That year, Abner Mares had the WBC featherweight belt. Russell did not have the popularity at that time, and he would have to go through all sorts of hoops with the WBC to get a fight with Mares, as he was being made the next biggest star. Both guys really wanted this belt. Lomachenko's Ukrainian handlers, who went on a campaign to get Bob Arum to put Basile in line for a title right at the start of his career, put in an incredibly large amount of pressure on Bob Arum to get this fight made, win or lose if it gets to a purse bid, which Top Rank lost the purse bid. So this fight was made, and you will see a sight that won't be seen till spring of 2015, a cross-promotion fight between a Heyman fighter and a Top Rank fighter. There were many who were skeptical of Basile's skills in the ring, and some thought that what you saw against Salido was the best you're going to see from Basile. The 1-1 Lomachenko had a lot to prove against, on paper, the more experienced Gary Russell Jr. with the record of 24-0. The first 4 rounds, both guys seemed to be feeling each other out. Russell seemed to start a bit faster than Lomachenko, but a rather even fight. In the 5th round, the fight completely changed. Basile was outclassing Gary.
Here's the irony. Lomachenko with many fewer professional fights, and yet Russell looks like the amateur style and Lomachenko looks like a pro, correct, Foley?
The 7th round, Basile was putting on a masterpiece. Gary was not able to get his footing into the fight, with Basile winning his first world title and his 3rd professional bout by a questionable majority decision. This was Orlando Salido's 3rd title defense of his WBO title, coming off a huge 2012 year, defeating Puerto Rican star Juan Manuel Lopez. This fight was for the WBO and vacant Ring Magazine title. Salido was on a hot streak as he was ranked number 1 by Ring Magazine, and for the number 3 ranked Mikey Garcia, this was his biggest test. By far one of Mikey's best performances. Amazing display of skills. Salido didn't know what to do.
Putting a lot of pressure.
Oh, right hand to the body. And Salido down for a 4th time in the fight. So he's got 110.
Fight come to him. There's another right. Salido.
The fight came to an end due to a bad headbutt from Salido in the bridge of Mikey's nose to cause issues. Mikey would win by a technical decision. Salido was reported after the fight to have a broken orbital bone. Sahaprom will go in history as one of the greatest, most decorated Muay Thai kickboxers of all time, earning multiple legitimate titles, beating the best in the golden age era of Muay Thai, with well over 100 fights on his resume. This man had a full career, and he was not done yet at the age of 26. He retired from Muay Thai, and he began professional boxing. Due to his credentials in Muay Thai, he was given a title shot for the WBA bantamweight crown in his 4th professional bout, which he he won. He lost the title his following bout against Nana Kanadu of Ghana. Sahaprom slowly crept back up in the WBC and Ring Magazine rankings to where he got another crack at the title against WBC champion and number 3 in the world, Joichiro Tatsuyoshi. Tatsuyoshi, who is coming off an incredibly close fight with Mexican legend Daniel Zaragoza for the title, then to regain the title to make 2 successful defenses, defeating Jose Sosa and undefeated future Hall of Famer Paulie Ayala. Tatsuyoshi was seen as the favorite to win this fight. Sahaprom proving to the world he is not just a great Muay Thai fighter, but a world-class boxer as well, putting his skills on display, shocking many with beautiful fundamentals, amazing timing and defense, completely shutting out Joichiro for 6 rounds straight till he stopped him in the final 10 seconds of that round to become champion. Sahaprom would reign for almost a decade, making 14 defenses of the WBC title to end his reign off with the record of 46-1 before being dethroned. This fight will forever live in controversy against 7-1 underdog Mauricio Herrera. Herrera was giving Garcia so many problems and completely caught him off guard, as this was promoted as an easy homecoming match by Showtime. Garcia would escape with a questionable majority decision, which that decision and others would spawn memes of Garcia, which Keith Thurman hilariously acknowledged in his post-fight interview after giving Garcia his first loss, which ironically, the decision was questionably too close on the scorecards as well, in Garcia's favor.
I knew when it was split and I heard that widespread that it had to go to me. This is your boy Keith one-time Thurman, and still champion of the world. 1 time became 2 times, baby. Ain't no robberies happening tonight.
These two had quite of a rivalry in the amateurs, but since not many Westerners follow the lower weight classes, fight fans will only know of Shiming because he was backed by huge investors, Top Rank, and HBO, where they only mentioned him and only him being the best, the future of the flyweight division. With guys like Amnat Ruanong, Roman Gonzalez, Akira Yayagashi, Kazuto Ioka, Francisco Estrada as a class of guys from light fly to flyweight at that time. From what I was seeing from Zou Shiming as he was coming up, I didn't think he stood a chance against these guys in the pros. I literally called in February, a month before the fight, in a post. I stated how HBO was hyping this man up too much for his own good and has completely alienated the rest of the fighters in the weight class to where boxing fans don't know who the best guys are, to where they think this fight will be a walk in the park, a cherry-picked matchup, which it isn't. Amnat came in disgracefully as a 6-1 underdog because how the division was poorly covered to Western audiences. Whoever heeded my warning won quite a bit of money, which some folks actually did. Amnat shocked the masses as he put on a show against his rival, fighting an incredibly intelligent fight to win by a wide margin on the scorecards.
ซูชิมิงอำนาจยังไม่ได้เห็นว่าเดินเร็วของซูชิเลยจะผ่านวงนอกไม่ถึงครับวินาทีสุดท้ายผ่านทั้ง3คนแล้วยากลำบากครับนี่ครับใช่ครับ
Hopkins has been written off left and right his whole career. He has one setback, first one in 15 years. The media, the so-called boxing experts, is back on the write-off train, to where Hopkins coming into this fight was a 3-1 underdog. But Hopkins is that dude that wants you to write him off and not give him a chance to win. He feeds off that. He fights his best under these circumstances. And Tarver was in for some trouble. Hopkins does what no other boxer was able to do to a prime Tarver and completely shut him out on the scorecards, even knocking him down.
Don't give it away. We're gonna finish this heavy. Push him back. We're gonna Trinidad this. Beautiful, beautiful.
Sugar Ray Robinson led Joey Maxim through 13 rounds.
Hopkins will win by a wide, unanimous decision to become the lineal and WBC light heavyweight champion. Some forgotten history here. Instead of chalking up the loss as maybe he thought he wasn't at his best that night and moved on to bigger endeavors, Tarver comes up with this wild conspiracy that he was poisoned by someone. Now, he didn't go as far as throwing some names out there, accusing people like a certain person in recent boxing championship history, but he makes that claim with no evidence to back it up. A more realistic and valid excuse he could have used was he didn't have enough time to lose all that muscle he put on when he starred in the Rocky Balboa film prior to the Hopkins fight. Donaire was seen as one of the best pound-for-pound fighters in the world. Prior to this matchup, he was named Boxing Writers Association of America's Fighter of the Year, which was one of the highest honors to receive. For the hardcore fight fans, this was the match everyone wanted to see. Donaire came in as a slight favorite. The fight was quite an eye-opener for many, as Donaire, who always had the speed advantage, is coming off as the slower fighter. And not only that, Rigondeaux was making Donaire miss a lot.
Taking Donaire to school a bit here in these first three rounds so far.
Sorry, 90 to 81, 9 rounds to nothing, Guillermo Rigondeaux. Jim, this guy is terribly prepared, just terribly. I don't know if he hit a speed bag or what. The guy throws 4 or 5 punches and Donaire doesn't throw one.
So I pointed out in a previous video how Rigondeaux just seems to mentally go on autopilot once he gets a lead, which did not go well, but it made it really entertaining. This situation was no different. Rigo had a sizable lead, and Donaire closed in on him in the 10th round, dropping Guillermo. That woke him up, and Rigo is now back to work. This time, he's really putting it on Donaire to end the fight off on top in the championship rounds. Whitaker put on a boxing masterpiece. This fight ending in the worst decision in boxing history, as somehow it was scored a draw.
115, a draw. The decision is a majority decision draw.
You can't have a list like this without mentioning an Ali fight. This is easily Ali's greatest performance before his career was put to a pause. Just poetry and motion. The way Ali evaded all of Foley's shots, the way he was circling the ring while landing counters on Foley, it was just beautiful. Ali knew of Foley and his reputation, and he had so much respect for the man that you didn't really see him showboat during the fight. He was serious as serious gets. Ali would stop Foley in the 7th round. People were wondering why I didn't include Mayweather versus Canelo in my top 10 Mayweather's easiest opponent list. It's the same reason why I didn't include the Mosley fight in Mayweather's toughest opponent list. It wasn't the easiest nor his hardest. Out of the list of easiest opponents Mayweather has faced, none of those 10 opponents made Floyd bite on a feint that hard or get effective shots in. Justin Junko was at number 10, and Harry Brusalis was at number 9. If you think Canelo did worse of a job than those guys who started the list, oh boy. That being said, not his easiest opponent, but he simply gave Canelo a boxing lesson of his lifetime. He fought an incredibly smart match, a beautiful offensive and defensive display against a young, athletic, in his prime opponent. As explained in the toughest Mayweather opponents video, when comparing Pretty Boy Floyd and Money Floyd, Pretty Boy Floyd took non-calculated risk without taking the consideration he may already be up on points that round. Money Floyd counted not only his shots that he threw and landed, but also his opponents. This fight here, it is beautifully displayed where, in one round, which the punch count was rather even, and Canelo had landed a shot that could have him up in that round, Floyd, knowing that because he had already tallied things up in his head, takes a calculated risk, lands enough on Canelo to outpoint and steal that round for himself. This is the ultimate checkmate here. He knows he stole the round from Canelo and immediately goes back on the defensive, refusing to let Canelo get anything else off that round. The level of ring intelligence here is unlooked massively. So Canelo receives his first and only loss in his career. In most cases, this would ruin a young fighter's career, but it did the opposite, and Canelo, who was inspired by Floyd, matured and improved his game to have a successful boxing career. And on top of that, this is when boxers get taken to school. For more videos like these, be sure to like, share, and if you're new, subscribe. Subscribe to my Patreon for Patreon-backed projects and early access to new uploads. This month's Patreon-backed project is on the tale of Miguel Cotto versus Zab Judah. I'm Alpha Sancho, and I'm out.